The stars had always been silent until one day they heard a strange hum began to pulse through the void, a signal unlike any before it, echoing across the galaxy, its origin unknown, its message clear but impossible to understand. It was a frequency no one had heard since the oldest of galactic myths had been passed down, a warning, a message that seemed to come from nowhere at all, but it was unmistakable. It vibrated through the fabric of space, reaching species far and wide, stretching to every corner of the universe, even to those who thought they were safe in their isolation. The message was simple, and yet it shook the very foundations of alien civilizations across the stars. "You have 3 months, then we strike." Its meaning was debated, its intent questioned, but one thing was certain: it made its way to every corner of the known galaxy, even to the most distant outposts. The quietest sectors were now filled with chatter, with uncertainty. The galaxy had been united in its fear of something none of them could explain. A ripple of panic spread among the most powerful races in the galaxy, and soon the great empires began to stir, not knowing what or who could challenge them. After millennia of domination, the answer could have been hidden in some long-lost corner of the universe. Or so they thought, or perhaps something more unimaginable had awoken. Perhaps humanity, who had once been a primitive species on a little blue planet, was now capable of reaching into the stars, their power untapped yet ready to be unleashed. But to many of the galaxy's greatest minds, the message was nothing more than a trick, a riddle with no answer, an illusion. They dismissed it as the ramblings of a race too young, too unimportant to make any impact. But the younger races, the ones with less history and fewer resources, were not so quick to dismiss the message. They sensed something strange and dangerous in its tone. They feared the unknown. More than anything, the unknown could be deadly. They looked at Earth, the blue planet with its teeming masses, and wondered what power lay there, what could possibly drive such a warning out into the galaxy. It was a mystery they couldn't ignore. On Earth, no one knew what was happening. The message had not come from Earth, nor had it been sent by Earth's leaders, but somehow it had reached them. Nonetheless, no one knew who had sent it, no one knew what it meant, but the seeds of fear were planted across the stars, and soon it would only take a few more moves before Earth would find itself at the center of something far larger than it could imagine. For now the humans went about their daily lives unaware of the cosmic waves that were being stirred in their name, unaware of the coming storm. But far beyond their reach, across vast stretches of spaceships, began to mobilize alliances formed in secrecy. Ships began to gather around distant star systems. The threat that had appeared out of nowhere now had the attention of races that had never even considered the possibility of Earth being anything more than a speck of dust in the grand scheme of the galaxy. The quiet hum of fear echoed in the dark corners of space. No one could have foreseen that a single message would ignite such chaos and uncertainty. No one could have imagined that the fate of countless species was about to be decided by the actions of one small planet far from the center of power and influence in the galaxy. Across the galaxy, the first whispers of Earth's message spread like wildfire. Some species laughed, others scoffed, dismissing it as a trick or a misunderstanding. After all, humanity was a race of little consequence to the ancient and powerful beings who ruled the stars. But as time passed, and the message continued to echo in every corner of the known universe, something began to shift. The uncertainty that had followed the transmission turned into something far more dangerous: fear. The older empires, the ones who had sat at the top of the galactic order for eons, began to question the validity of the warning. Some of the galaxy's most feared warlords gathered in secret councils to discuss the possible threat the humans might represent, but most of them still believed that Earth's message was nothing more than the ravings of a primitive species, trying to appear more important than they truly were. After all, humanity had only just begun to explore space. Their fleets were small, and their technology far behind the advanced races of the galaxy, but deep down they feared that there was something more at play, something that had set the humans on a dangerous path, and they were too proud to ignore it. It was the younger races, those who had not yet reached the height of galactic power, who took the message seriously. They were smaller, faster, and more desperate. They had always lived under the shadow of the empires and had learned to fear the unknown. More than anything else, they knew what it was like to be overlooked, to be dismissed by the great powers of the galaxy. They had been the underdogs for centuries, and now this message from Earth had caught them in a whirlwind of possibilities. Among them was a coalition of rebel factions, known for their cunning and ruthlessness. They saw the warning as an opportunity. They believed that Earth's message was a challenge, something that could lead them to untold power if they could only understand what it truly meant. They saw in humanity not a threat, but a tool, something they could manipulate to their advantage. They sent scouts and spies to gather information on Earth's technology and capabilities, preparing for the moment when they could move against the more established powers and take what they believed to be their rightful place in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the more cautious factions began to take the warning seriously. Despite their earlier dismissals, they realized that there was no way to be sure what Earth's message truly meant. If the humans were somehow capable of sending out such a powerful signal across the galaxy, they might possess abilities that no one had yet discovered. They had no choice but to react to the growing tension. Those in power realized that Earth could not be ignored, and that its future could shape the fate of the entire galaxy. But what troubled the galactic powers most was the silence from Earth itself. Not a single leader spoke out to explain the message. No one reached out to calm the growing panic. No one stood up to tell the galaxy what was going on. Not a word was said from the planet's governments or its people. It was as if Earth had thrown the stone and then hidden its hand. Alien fleets began to mobilize ships, taking positions near Earth's solar system, preparing for whatever might come next. Some races had begun to form alliances, others prepared to strike at the heart of the human world in an attempt to subdue whatever power they thought the humans were hiding. The galaxy was on the edge of chaos, and no one knew who would make the first move. As the days stretched into weeks, the tension grew palpable, and it became clear that whatever Earth had done, it had changed the course of galactic history forever. On Earth, the situation seemed calm on the surface, but beneath the facade, something was stirring. A small group of human researchers and scholars had begun to make an astonishing discovery. As they delved into ancient texts and recordings, they found clues that pointed to a much larger cosmic mystery, something that no one had anticipated. Buried in the history of multiple alien species was a common thread, an ancient prophecy that had been passed down in secret among the oldest races of the galaxy. The warning from Earth was not some random threat. It was a message that had been foretold for eons, and humanity was at the heart of it. The prophecy spoke of a time when a young species would rise from the depths of the galaxy to challenge the order of the stars. At first, these humans had no idea what the prophecy meant. But as they pieced together the puzzle, it became clear that Earth was not just a random target of galactic intrigue. It was a key piece in a much larger game, a game that had been set in motion long before humanity had even learned to look up at the stars. The revelation sent shockwaves through the small circle of scholars who were investigating the ancient records. They realized that Earth's sudden emergence on the galactic stage was not a coincidence. The message sent across the stars had awakened something long dormant in the galaxy, something that had been carefully hidden by ancient alien races for centuries, a secret that they had hoped would never be discovered. But even as the humans began to piece together the secrets of the prophecy, the galaxy itself was becoming more and more frantic. The older empires who had once dismissed Earth's message now feared it, and the younger races who had seen it as an opportunity began to take bold action. They formed their own alliances, hoping to secure Earth's allegiance before the larger powers could move against them. Some offered protection, while others sought to control Earth's future, but no one knew what humanity would do next. In the midst of this growing chaos, a powerful galactic council was formed by the most influential species in the galaxy. The council met in secret to discuss the threat that Earth now posed to the stability of the galaxy. The leaders of the oldest empires, the ones who had ruled the stars for millennia, gathered in a massive council chamber and debated what to do with this upstart species that had suddenly made its presence known. The council was divided. Some wanted to strike first, eliminate humanity, before they could become a true threat. Others saw the humans as a potential ally and wished to negotiate an understanding with them. But there were few who truly understood the magnitude of the situation. The message from Earth was not just a warning to other species, it was a test, one that would determine the future of the galaxy and the course humanity would take. Far from the corridors of power in the deepest reaches of space, another faction was quietly preparing a different kind of response to the prophecy. This group was unlike any other. They were not interested in conquest or negotiation. They sought something more elusive, something that had been lost in the mists of time. They believed that humanity was destined to bring about a new age for the galaxy, but only if it could first uncover the truth of its origins, the truth of the prophecy. These seekers moved in the shadows, gathering ancient relics and forgotten knowledge. They believed that humanity's role in the galaxy had been written long before they could even comprehend it. But as Earth's future seemed to hang in the balance, they knew that the time was coming to reveal the secret that would change everything. As Earth remained silent, the galaxy spun into a frenzy of activity. Alliances shifted, old enemies became unlikely friends, and new powers emerged from the darkness. It was clear that Earth's message had opened a door that no one could close, and now the universe was waiting to see what humanity would do next. The galaxy was on edge, each species uncertain of what would come next. In the wake of Earth's cryptic message, alliances that had long been unthinkable were formed, driven by a single unifying fear: the rising power of humanity. The older empires, once confident in their control of the stars, began to question their invulnerability. A subtle shift in galactic politics began to take shape, one that would ripple through every corner of the universe. Those who had once looked down on Earth were now forced to reckon with the possibility that humanity could be a serious player in the cosmic game. But not all factions were so easily swayed. The galaxy's most aggressive warlords, ruthless, power-hungry, and determined, saw the message as a challenge they could not ignore. To them, Earth was a weak, isolated planet with nothing but a hollow threat. They saw an opportunity to strike first, to eliminate the human threat before it could grow stronger. They mobilized, quickly organizing fleets under the banner of conquest. Their ships moved with ruthless precision, their commanders eager to stamp out any hint of rebellion before it could take root. Earth, they believed, was ripe for the taking. As these warlords prepared to strike, a powerful alliance of more cautious, diplomatically minded races gathered in secret. These factions, knowing that Earth's message was no empty boast, realized they could not allow the reckless warlords to act without first exploring all possible avenues for peace. They reached out to human emissaries, offering strange and cryptic alliances in exchange for cooperation. They spoke of knowledge, technology, and peace, promises of unimaginable power if only Earth would side with them. But the humans had no reason to trust anyone. They remained silent, hidden in their own uncertainty, waiting for the storm to pass. In the midst of this chaos, a small but significant group of human leaders, scientists, former diplomats, and a few bold military commanders began to realize that their planet had become the center of a galactic chessboard. They were no longer mere bystanders. They had been thrust into the heart of a conflict that would decide the future of the galaxy. What had once been a simple broadcast, a fleeting message sent into the void, had turned into a rallying cry, a symbol of humanity's undeniable presence in a universe that had long ignored them. With this realization came action. Humanity could not simply wait for the galaxy to decide its fate. They began making preparations in secret. Earth's governments, once fractured and divided, now began to see the necessity of uniting. Human researchers scrambled to decode the alien technologies that had been gathered over the years, working in secret labs that stretched across the globe. Military leaders began training a new breed of warriors, ones who would not shy away from the challenges ahead. Humanity was preparing, quietly but steadily, for the moment when they would no longer be passive observers of the universe. Despite their silence, Earth's defenses were growing. The newly formed human coalition made its first moves in the dark corners of space, sending out exploratory missions to secure vital resources. Ships were equipped with newly forged technologies, some from alien relics, some from Earth's own ingenuity, and they began to patrol the space surrounding Earth's solar system. The galaxy might have seen Earth as a minor threat at first, but that was rapidly changing. As the fleets gathered, an inevitable question loomed over every faction. Which side would humanity choose? Would they side with the ancient empires in exchange for protection? Would they ally with the aggressive warlords, seeing them as a path to power? Or would they carve their own path, trusting in their newfound strength and the mysterious knowledge they had only just begun to understand? Across the stars, the tension grew unbearable. Alliances were tested, borders were redrawn, and the fate of Earth was hanging by a thread. But as the galaxy moved toward war, one thing was clear: humanity would no longer be the passive bystander in this ancient conflict. Their silence had been the spark that set everything into motion, and now they were ready to face the consequences of their warning. As the galaxy teetered on the brink of chaos, the first signs of Earth's unexpected resilience began to show. The alien fleets that had been slowly gathering, preparing for what they believed would be a quick and easy conquest, had not anticipated the sudden shift in humanity's capabilities. Earth's silence had not been a sign of weakness, but rather a time of quiet preparation. Hidden from the prying eyes of alien spies, human scientists had been working tirelessly for months, unlocking the secrets of alien technology that had been discovered in various crashed ships and abandoned stations. What was once incomprehensible now seemed within reach. Within underground laboratories, a small army of engineers and researchers worked day and night, reverse engineering the technology of the galaxy's most advanced species. Weapons that had once been seen as nothing more than myths and legends were now becoming a reality. Earth's military forces, once ill-equipped to defend against even the weakest of alien invaders, now had access to weaponry and shields that could match even the most formidable fleets. The balance of power had begun to shift, and humanity was no longer helpless in the face of galactic might. Military leaders, who had spent years preparing for a conflict that now seemed inevitable, began to implement their newfound technology. Ships that had once been patrolling Earth's atmosphere were now refitted with advanced energy cannons, kinetic shields, and hyperspeed propulsion systems that allowed them to travel faster than any human craft had ever dared. But it wasn't just the military that was adapting. Civilians, too, were beginning to understand the weight of the situation. Governments around the world formed alliances, pooling their resources into a united front. Leaders who had once bickered over trivial differences now found common ground, knowing that their very survival was at stake. Earth's defenses were strengthening at an unimaginable rate. Yet even as humanity prepared for war, the galaxy was still uncertain about the true intentions of Earth. While some factions viewed Earth's technological leap as an opportunity for peace and cooperation, others were still skeptical, even fearful of what humanity might become. The most conservative powers of the galaxy remained cautious, unwilling to risk alienating Earth by showing too much interest. They continued to watch from the sidelines, waiting to see if humanity would reveal its true motives or if it would collapse under the weight of its own ambition. The alien races that had been most vocal in dismissing Earth's potential now found themselves caught off guard. What had been a distant, primitive planet was rapidly becoming a force to be reckoned with. The sudden and unexpected emergence of humanity as a technological and military power sent ripples through the galaxy. Earth's once dismissed message now seemed less like a bluff and more like a promise, a declaration that humanity would no longer remain in the shadows. As the first alien fleets made their way toward Earth's solar system, humanity stood ready. The sky above Earth seemed to darken with the approaching ships, and while fear rippled through the populace, a growing sense of unity began to take root. The military prepared for the worst, knowing that they might soon face their first true test against alien invaders. The newly built fleets, though still inexperienced in galactic warfare, were eager to prove that they had the strength to defend their home. Earth was no longer simply a small planet on the edge of the galaxy. It was now a battlefield where the future of the galaxy would be decided. In the weeks leading up to the first major confrontation, Earth's leaders gathered in secret to discuss their options. Some advocated for diplomacy, seeking to negotiate with the incoming alien forces, hoping to avoid the bloodshed that seemed inevitable. Others believed that Earth must stand firm, not only for its own survival, but to send a message to the galaxy that humanity would not be a passive player in a game it had only just joined. The question now was not whether they could win the coming war, but whether they could preserve their independence, or if they would be forced to choose sides in a galactic conflict that was already spiraling out of control. The first signs of the galactic frenzy were subtle. Alien ships, which had once kept their distance from Earth's solar system, began to gather in the far reaches of space. Small reconnaissance fleets appeared on the outskirts of the system, probing Earth's defenses and testing their resolve. To the alien species that had once regarded Earth as little more than a distant curiosity, these initial movements were a clear message. The stakes were higher than anyone had anticipated. Earth was no longer a passive observer. It was an active player in the grand cosmic game. And the galaxy's factions, divided as they were, had to decide how they would respond. In the midst of this uncertainty, Earth's leaders scrambled to coordinate a unified strategy. The military had prepared for this moment, newly equipped with advanced alien technology, but they knew that they were still vulnerable. The human fleets, though powerful, were untested against the might of the long-established galactic empires. The key to humanity's survival now lay not just in military strength, but in the ability to navigate the increasingly complex web of alliances and betrayals that had begun to form around Earth. Some factions saw an opportunity to reach out to humanity. The more cautious alien races, the ones who had watched Earth's rise with quiet concern, now realized that forging an alliance with the humans might be their best chance at survival. They saw the potential for mutual gain. Earth's technological leap could shift the balance of power in the galaxy, and in return, these alien factions offered knowledge, resources, and even promises of protection against the more aggressive warlords who were already positioning themselves to strike. But not all races were so eager to cooperate. The warlords, who had always believed in the strength of their weapons and the ruthlessness of their forces, were incensed by humanity's newfound capabilities. To them, Earth was a threat that could not be allowed to grow unchecked. They saw humanity's message not as a warning, but as a declaration of war. These warlords moved swiftly, forming alliances of their own with races that had always thrived on conflict and expansion. They sought to crush Earth before it could further threaten their dominance. At the heart of this growing chaos was a question that no one had yet answered. Would Earth choose to fight alongside one faction or stand on its own? The human response was one of cautious diplomacy, though it was clear that Earth's leaders were divided. Some advocated for forging alliances with the more peaceful factions, hoping to secure a stable position for humanity within the galaxy. Others believed that Earth should remain independent, refusing to align itself with any faction, and instead preparing to defend its home at all costs. In the corridors of power, whispers of betrayal and shifting allegiances began to circulate. Earth's silence had always been a source of mystery, but now it was becoming clear that this silence was a carefully calculated move. The humans were not scrambling for survival. They were preparing to make their own decisions, even if it meant taking on the entire galaxy. Every faction, no matter how powerful, now had to reckon with the fact that humanity might chart its own course. The galaxy's leaders began to feel the pressure mount. They could no longer afford to treat Earth as a minor player. It was clear that humanity had learned to navigate the dangers of galactic politics with frightening speed. The older empires, once confident in their ability to control the flow of power, now found themselves in a precarious position. If Earth were to ally with one of the more aggressive factions, it could lead to an all-out war that might engulf the entire galaxy. But if Earth chose independence, it could spark a new kind of resistance, a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. And so, the stage was set. The first skirmishes were fought in the dark corners of space, where small fleets clashed and skirmished over territory and influence. But all eyes were on Earth. The fate of the galaxy now rested on what humanity decided in the coming days. Would they bend to the pressure of the older, established powers, or would they strike out on their own, leading the galaxy into a new era of independence? The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the inevitable clash, for the first true test of humanity's strength on the galactic stage. The galaxy held its breath, each faction waiting to see what humanity would do next. The balance of power was shifting, and Earth's silence was no longer a signal of weakness but of intent. The fleets that had once gathered in the farthest reaches of space now moved closer to Earth's solar system, some in preparation for battle, others in anticipation of a diplomatic solution. Each faction knew that the decision humanity made in the coming days would determine the future of the entire galaxy. On Earth, the uncertainty had reached its peak. Leaders from all corners of the planet gathered in emergency councils, facing the weight of the moment. The world's military commanders had become the new architects of Earth's fate, working alongside scientists and diplomats to craft a response that would secure humanity's place in the galaxy. It was no longer a matter of survival. It was a matter of identity. Would Earth bend to the will of the powerful galactic empires, or would it stand firm as an independent force? In secret meetings, military strategists outlined their plans for the defense of Earth. Humanity's fleets, though newly equipped and fiercely determined, still faced the reality of being outnumbered. The alien forces that were converging on Earth's solar system were vast, their ships ancient and formidable. But Earth's advantage was not in size. It was in its unity. For the first time in history, the nations of Earth had set aside their differences, creating a single coordinated force that was willing to stand together, regardless of the outcome. As the days passed, the first signs of the galactic fleets arriving on Earth's doorstep became impossible to ignore. The sky above Earth darkened with the looming presence of alien ships, their sleek forms cutting through space like shadows. It was a moment of inevitability. Earth had been thrust into the heart of galactic politics, and there was no turning back. But just as the first shots seemed poised to be fired, something unexpected happened. A signal came through from the Galactic Council, the largest gathering of the galaxy's most powerful species. It was a message to Earth, but it was not one of conquest or negotiation. It was an offer, an invitation to meet, to discuss, to find common ground. The leaders of the Galactic Council were divided, but the message was clear. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and humanity's response could tip the scales in one direction or another. The offer was a delicate one. Some factions saw Earth as a potential ally, a powerful force that could tip the balance of power in their favor. Others feared that humanity's emergence might disrupt the delicate equilibrium of the galaxy. The message from the Council was not an ultimatum but a plea for humanity to make a decision, to choose a side, and forge a path forward. On Earth, the response was immediate but far from unified. The world's leaders were torn. Some saw the Council's offer as a lifeline, a chance to secure peace and stability for Earth by aligning with the galaxy's most powerful factions. Others, however, feared that this was nothing more than a trap, an attempt to coerce humanity into becoming a pawn in the galaxy's endless struggle for dominance. The decision was too important to be made lightly, and the debate raged on in Earth's halls of power. Meanwhile, alien fleets continued to move into position, their commanders growing impatient. They had expected a quick victory, but humanity's response had thrown the situation into disarray. Every passing day that Earth hesitated only brought them closer to the brink of war. But there were whispers among the human leaders, whispers of a third path, one that had been suggested by the scientists who had worked so tirelessly to reverse engineer alien technologies. Some believed that Earth didn't have to choose a side at all. Instead, humanity could forge its own path, using the very technologies that had made it a target to become a force in its own right, one that was neither subservient nor aggressive but independent and free. The idea was dangerous, untested, and risky, but it was a possibility that humanity had to consider. As the tension mounted and the galaxy's fleets grew ever closer, Earth's leaders were faced with a choice: to accept the Galactic Council's offer, to ally with one faction, or to risk everything and carve out a new future as an independent force in the galaxy. The clock was ticking, and soon they would have to decide. The moment of decision had arrived. Earth's leaders convened in an urgent summit, the weight of the galaxy pressing down upon them. Every faction in the galaxy was waiting for an answer, some with anticipation, others with a quiet, growing hostility. Time was running out, and Earth could no longer afford to remain in the shadows of galactic politics. The choice was clear, yet painfully difficult. Should humanity join the Galactic Council and seek protection through alliance, or should they defy the odds, stand alone, and carve their own path? In the Grand Council chamber, a holographic map of the galaxy spun before the world's leaders. The incoming fleets were visible now, hundreds of ships from all corners of the galaxy. The scale of the confrontation was staggering, but the most pressing question remained: could Earth survive this? Could humanity make it on its own, or would it fall under the weight of the galaxy's most powerful empires? President Amelia Grant, one of the leading voices in the council, was among those who believed that Earth should remain independent. She was a bold strategist, one who understood that humanity's survival lay not in bowing to the will of the galaxy's powers, but in forging a future where they were free to choose their own destiny. "This galaxy has never known true unity," she declared, her voice strong, filled with resolve. "We've been pawns, manipulated and discarded by those who seek to control. Now we have the strength to shape our own future. We will not kneel." Her words echoed in the chamber, but not all shared her optimism. General Marcus Duval, a decorated military commander, was among those who cautioned against such a bold stand. "We cannot ignore the reality," he countered, his voice tense. "The alien fleets are already closing in. We're facing overwhelming odds. Our technology is new, untested. We don't know what we're truly up against. The Council may offer us the safety we need." But even as the debate raged on, there were voices that quietly aligned themselves with the idea of forging a third path. Scientists and engineers, who had worked tirelessly to reverse engineer alien technologies, stood together with some diplomatic leaders, suggesting that Earth could strike a balance, not an enemy of the galaxy, but a force to be reckoned with. Humanity didn't need to submit or fight. They could use their newfound power to broker peace on their own terms. Hours passed as the debate went on, but outside Earth's atmosphere, the situation was rapidly deteriorating. Alien ships were entering Earth's solar system at a faster rate. The Galactic Council had given humanity a deadline for their decision, and if Earth did not respond by midnight, the fleets would begin their advance. In the final moments, it was President Grant who made the call. Standing before the holographic map, she turned to face the council. "We choose to fight for our future," she said, her voice unwavering. "We will not bow. We will not be controlled. We will show the galaxy that humanity will not be defined by the empires of the past. We will be the architects of our own destiny." With that, she signaled for the fleet commanders to initiate the launch sequence. The newly formed human fleets, armed with advanced alien technology, began to deploy. The ships, though outnumbered, moved with the coordination and precision of a force determined to fight for survival. It was a bold statement, a declaration to the galaxy that Earth would not be silenced. The battle that would follow would shape the future of the galaxy, and humanity was ready to stand at the forefront. As Earth's forces powered into space, they sent a final transmission to the incoming fleets, a single message broadcast across the stars. "We are Earth. We are humanity. And we will not be your pawns." The galaxy held its breath as Earth's fleets positioned themselves in the cold expanse of space. It was no longer just a conflict between species. It was a fight for the right to exist on their own terms. The coming battle would not only determine the fate of Earth, but the future of the galaxy itself. And as humanity prepared for war, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again.